There is a very awkward stage of business that nobody really wants you about. Your company is doing more than $1 million a year. You know your service works. You have customers. You have employees. You probably have years of experience and a ridiculous amount of knowledge inside the business. But when somebody looks at your social media, none of that is obvious. Online, you look almost identical to companies that are half as experienced as you. Sometimes you look worse. And naturally, the solution seems to be we need to post more. So you hire somebody, you buy better cameras, you start using AI, you create a content calendar, and now you are producing more content. But it still isn't creating enough qualified opportunities. If that describes your business, I want to show you what is actually going wrong. Because between $1 and $10 million a year, your social media problem usually isn't a lack of content. It's the failure to turn the intelligence already inside your business into public trust. And those are two completely different problems. This video is specifically for established businesses. If you are trying to get your first customer, this probably isn't the video for you. And if your goal is to become an influencer, this isn't really about that either. This is for a business that already produces a good result but needs social media to create authority, shorten the trust building process, and generate more qualified demand. Here's the central idea. You do not need a bigger content factory. You need a system that stacks your company's judgment, packages it intelligently, and puts it in front of the right buyers. Let's unpack that. Right now, most social media content is being made backwards. A marketing team sits down and asks, what should we post this week? They look at competitors, they find some popular videos, they open ChatGPT, they create a list of topics, and that sounds strategic, but there is a hidden problem. When every business researches the same competitors, studies the same viral videos, and uses the same AI tools, everybody gradually begins to sound the same. You get different videos that somehow feel like the same video, the titles are familiar, the hooks are familiar, the advice is familiar. You can almost predict what the person will say before they say it. This is why so much business content feels strategically empty. It has the appearance of expertise without containing much actual judgment. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore what is already working. That would be stupid. If a certain topic is clearly attracting attention in your market, you should pay attention to it. If a certain title structure or video format consistently works, you should study it. Using proven formats helps reduce risks. But here's the distinction most businesses miss. The substance should come from your business. The packaging can come from the market. Most companies do the opposite. They borrow the substance from somebody else and add their logo to the packaging. That is how you end up with content that looks professional but gives people no particular reason to trust you. So where should the substance come from? It should come from the places where your company is already thinking. Your sales conversations, customer questions, delivery problems, objections, lost deals, the mistakes customers make before hiring you, the trade-offs your experienced team understands but beginners don't, the moments when a prospect says, wait, I've never thought about it that way, that is where your best content is hiding. Not inside a list of 50 content ideas. Inside the real decisions your customers are already trying to make. This is the first part of the system, extracting demand. And when I say demand, I don't just mean popular topics. I mean expensive problems that the right buyer genuinely wants to solve. There is a big difference between content people enjoy watching and content that changes how a potential customer thinks about a problem. Both can get views, only one consistently creates business. So instead of asking your team to come up with more ideas, I would have them collect 4 things every week. What problem did prospects repeatedly mention? What did they misunderstand about that problem? What objection prevented them from moving forward? And what did the team say that changed their understanding? Those 4 things will tell you what the market is worried about, what it currently believes, and where your company has an opportunity to introduce a stronger point of view. And that point of view is the second part of the system because information is no longer scarce. Anybody can ask AI for 10 tips. Anybody can summarize a book. Anybody can turn a blog post into a video. The valuable thing now is not information, it's judgment. Judgment is knowing which information matters in a specific situation. It's knowing what to ignore. It's understanding the trade-offs. It's being able to look at a problem and say, this is what I would do, this is what I would not do, and this is why. That is what sophisticated customers actually want from your content. They are not searching for another definition. They are trying to make a decision. And a lot of business content never reaches that level because companies are terrified of having an opinion. They want every post to be completely safe. Every sentence gets softened. Every argument has to survive 6 rounds of approval. By the time the content gets published, nobody could possibly disagree with it. But nobody remembers it either. Authority requires you to make decisions in public, not controversial statements for attention, real decisions. What do you believe your market gets wrong? What popular approach do you think is wasting customers' money? What looks like the problem but is usually only a symptom? When should somebody not hire a company like yours? What would you fix first if you inherited the customer situation tomorrow? Those are authority questions. They reveal how your company thinks. And if you cannot answer them, posting more frequently will not solve the problem. It will only distribute the lack of differentiation more efficiently. This brings us to AI, because AI is absolutely going to change how marketing teams operate. It already has. But I think businesses are making a serious mistake with it. They are using AI to replace thinking when they should be using it to multiply thinking. AI can review transcripts, it can organize customer questions, it can identify repeated themes, it can turn one strong idea into several formats, it can draft variation, summarize research, and accelerate production. That is useful, but AI should not decide what your company believes. It should not invent experience you do not have, and it should not be the final judge of whether something sounds true, useful, or worth publishing. The machine can increase your output. It cannot automatically increase your taste. In fact, the more content AI produces, the more valuable taste becomes. Because somebody still has to look at 10 possible hooks and know which one attracts the right person without cheapening the brand. Somebody has to recognize when a script is technically correct but sounds nothing like the person reading it. Somebody has to catch a claim that sounds impressive but cannot actually be defended. Somebody has to decide what is worth saying. So the future is not a marketing team where AI does everything. It is a marketing team where AI handles reputation and humans protect judgment. Automate the labor, do not automate the opinion. That is the dividing line. And it leads to another problem that appears at this stage of business: founder dependence. Usually the founder has the clearest opinions. The founder understands why the company operates a certain way. The founder remembers the painful lessons that created those opinions. So everyone concludes that the founder has to make all the content, and for a few weeks that may work. Then the business becomes busy. The founder misses a recording. Approvals begin piling up. Publishing becomes inconsistent. Eventually the entire system stops. That isn't a content system. That is another job the company gave it to its busiest person. But completely removing the founder creates the opposite problem. Now the team can publish consistently, but the content sounds generic because the source of judgment has disappeared. The answer is not choosing between those two opinions. The answer is changing the founder's role. The founder should provide decisions, insights, and raw material. The team should operate the production system. That might mean one structured conversation where the team brings real customer questions and extracts the founder's response. Not what do you want to post about? That question puts the entire creative burden back on the founder. Instead, 3 prospects said this last week. Why do you think they see it that way? We lost 2 deals because of this objection. What are they misunderstanding? Customers keep trying to solve this problem first. Why do you normally tell them to fix something else? Now you are not asking the founder to become a content creator. You are extracting the judgment they already used to run the business. That conversation can become several pieces of content because it contains real substance. AI and the marketing team can help package and distribute it, but the original thinking still came from the experience. That is how you increase output without making the content feel artificially manufactured. The content should be able to operate without taking over the founder's calendar, but it should not sound like it was created without the founder's brain. Now there is one more tension we need to solve. How much of your content should be proven and how much should be original? If you only copy formats and topics that already work, you reduce risks. But you also risk becoming permanently dependent on what other companies discover first. You may get respectable reach, but you never develop a recognizable voice. On the other hand, if every post is a completely original experiment, you may spend a lot of time and money creating things the market has no interest in. So I would not choose one side. I would build a portfolio. Most of your content should address problems with visible existing demand. These are the questions your customers repeatedly ask and the subjects that already attract attention in your market. Some of your content should show proof, not just testimonials. Your process, your diagnosis, the details your team notice, the standards behind the result, and then a smaller portion should be reserved for genuine experiments, an original argument, a different video structure, a topic that has not been validated but that you strongly believe needs to be discussed. Those experiments may fail, that is fine, because when everything you publish is based only on what worked for somebody else, you don't collect your own creative data. You never learn what your specific market responds to when the idea comes from you, and eventually you reach a ceiling. Safe content can help you reach the existing standard. Experimentation is how you discover a new standard. The goal is to be strategic without becoming derivative. Use proven packaging to help important ideas travel. Do not invent hollow ideas just to fill proven packaging. Now we need to talk about conversion, because getting attention from the right person is valuable, but it is not the final objective. A buyer should be able to move through your content and gradually answer 4 questions. Do these people understand my problem? Do they see something I don't? Have they solved this before? And what should I do if I want their help? That is the actual journey. A short video might introduce the problem, a longer video might change how they understand it. Your proof reduces the perceived risks, and a clear call to action gives them somewhere to go. This is why I don't believe every piece of content needs to sell, but the system absolutely needs to make buying possible. Some companies sell in every post and exhaust the audience. Others provide value for months but make the next step almost impossible to find. You need the middle. Teach generously, demonstrate your judgment, show credible proof, and when the context is right, be direct about how you help. Sophisticated buyers do not become angry simply because you offer them a relevant solution. They become frustrated when the offer is vague, exaggerated, or hidden behind some strange marketing trick. Directness is fine. The offer just has to match the problem the content has helped them understand. And this also changes what you measure. Of course, views matter. Without attention, nothing else happens. But the goal isn't the highest possible number of views. It is the highest possible concentration of the right viewers. After views, I would look at qualified profile visits, repeat viewers, people consuming multiple pieces of content, relevant messages and inquiries, sales conversations where prospects mention a specific video, opportunities influenced by content, and ultimately revenue. Because 10,000 views from people who could never become customers may be worth less than 100 views from people actively trying to solve the exact problem you address. The useful question isn't how much attention did this get? It is, what did the right people do after they saw it? That is a much more mature content scoreboard. Finally, before increasing production, I would give the system one test. Can the company publish consistently for 30 days without the founder running the workflow, without the quality of the ideas collapsing, and while producing evidence that the right buyers are paying attention? If it cannot, do not escalate it. Fix the system first, because multiplying a broken content operation doesn't create leverage. It creates more noise, more approvals, more dashboards, and more frustration. But once you know how to extract demand, capture internal judgment, package it effectively, preserve quality, and connect attention to business outcomes, then you can scale. More platforms, more formats, more variations, more output, and AI becomes incredibly valuable at that stage because it is multiplying something that already works. So if your company generates between $1 and $10 million a year, here's the entire strategy. Stop treating social media like a weekly obligation to produce posts. Build it like an operating system. Extract real problems from the market. Turn your company's judgment into content. Use proven formats without surrendering your originality. Let AI handle reputation while humans protect the thinking. Create a path from attention to trust, from trust to proof, and from proof to a conversation. And make the system sustainable enough that it does not disappear every time the founder gets busy. That is how social media becomes an asset. Not because it made the company look active, because it made the company's expertise visible, understandable, and trusted at scale. And if your business is between $1 and $10 million a year, you already have most of the raw material. You're sitting inside your sales calls, customer conversations, processes, and people. The problem is that the market cannot see it yet. That is exactly what I help businesses fix. My team and I help established companies extract the expertise already inside their business and turn it into a social media system designed to build authority and generate qualified demand. If that is the gap inside your company right now, you can find the details below. But whether you work with us or build this internally, remember this: the advantage is no longer simply being able to produce more content. Almost everybody can do that now. The advantage is having something worth saying and building a system capable of saying it consistently.